Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is David. I hope your new year is off to a wonderful start. Today's video is called Transform Consciousness Through Allowing. Allowing is our most powerful energy, but it can be difficult sometimes because the mind tells us that what we allow will continue. When in reality, when we allow something that doesn't work for us, it always transcends it and moves in the improvement. So let's chat a little bit about this. Well, the best way to explain it, I think, is to take your hand and put it on your face. See, here, something is being given. In other words, the face is there and there's a part that's giving something and there's a part that's receiving something. The more we understand that in order to receive our face, even our own face and how it feels, we have to perceive it. There has to be a perception from the other side. And the ability to see the giving and the receiving energies here helps us understand that as we move around our life, we're always perceiving it into existence. It feels like it's just there. It feels like it could be there with its own perception or its own energy or its own meaning. But in reality, we're perceiving it into existence for us. Now, because of that, our perception of the world is incredibly, incredibly important. How we perceive it is the only thing that gives rise to resistance. Because as we insist it to be a certain way based on our perception, then it can cause resistance inside of us. So it's our perception that needs to be transformed. Perceiving the world and changing our perception is the essence of everything. So now the understanding of allowing is recognizing that as I allow the world to be just as it is, to come in exactly as it is, then I recognize that desire, which I have a desire of goodness, or I have a desire of a good life, I have a desire of an awakened life. Each one of us have put that desire out into the world. And now the next stage of desire is allowing. If we just allow the world to come in exactly as it is, then our desire will be matched based on what comes in. You see, desire, allowing must go together. They're on the heels of each other. There would be nothing else to receive besides our own desire. Now that's reality. As we learn to allow the world, we will see that our desires will indeed flow in the gaps, because that's what must happen. But our mind, the perspective mind, the perception that we hold sometimes, believes that other things can come in, that the world is inherent on its own, or it's an individual, separate consciousness that can bring anything into us regardless of what we've asked. And this is never the case. So, as we walk around the world, and you know this feeling, the resistance comes in, this idea of I don't like this, or there's a feeling of push here, or the mind activity. You'll see that what's happening is that it's just an insistence that the world be a certain way. Bashar says that the formula is to follow our passion without any insistence of what comes in. Notice he says no insistence. See, it's our insistence, it's like we were talking about in the last video, that's what causes all pain and suffering. It's simply, we insist that things should be different, but we do not want to change the perception that we are having of it. And this is what imprisonment is, because you are perceiving your life into existence. You cannot get a different effect of the world without changing the perception that you hold of it. Does this make sense? This is why there's no blame. You have to really kind of sit with this on your own. You can't blame something or someone because you are perceiving it into your own existence for your own truth. Everybody gets what they perceive. Now, what I recommend and what I offer is that if anything's pushing against you from anywhere in your life, it is always because of the perception that you are holding about the world and yourself and your source that doesn't match the perception of your higher or broader perspective. Therefore, they're pushing against each other. So I've learned in my life, if anything pushes against me anywhere in my life, regardless if it's someone, something, someplace, doesn't matter, then that is my perception that needs to change. Now, a lot of time, the mind activity, we all know so well, is kind of like a guard standing at the door of your world, of your mind, and it's letting you know where you're in threat. Don't do that. Watch that. We would call that sin. This idea of the mind standing guard at your door and saying, watch out for them and watch out for this, and here they go here, and this comes in. You see, now it's very uncomfortable for us because even though that mind essentially is protecting you in its own way, is trying to let you know where threat is in the world that you don't like, based on the perception that you're holding. It comes also in the form of guilt. Notice that in order for something to sin against you, to push against you, you have to push against it. And that's the guilt. So there's two sides, one coming towards you and you coming towards it, and it's very uncomfortable. Now, because of that guilt, a lot of time that mind is going to give us somewhat of a feeling that we're doing wrong. This is where the guilt comes from. It's, I did wrong. I'm no good. I'm always messing up. I'm failing. I'm a loser. You see, I'm no good. I'm not worthy. But in reality, it's not what it's saying. It's trying to let you know where things are pushing against you. It's letting you know where the threat in your life from the outside is. It just doesn't take in consideration the other side, which is the guilt side. Does that make sense? Sin and guilt have to come together. So therefore, you're going to feel it from an outside perspective and you're going to feel it from your perspective. This is what we're feeling when we're walking around the world. Anytime you feel any kind of resistance, any kind of push, or any kind of discomfort, or pain, or any kind of suffering, or high mind activity, it's always because there's an insistence in your perception that things should be different than they are. Does that make sense? So insistence equals resistance. Now, I say this because the more you understand that the world is supposed to be smooth and easy and joyful, and if we just trusted it, completely trust every single thing, it would all be taken care of. As Abraham Hicks says, with step one, you're moving on the road. Through the contrast, you see what you don't want or experience what you don't want. You ask what you do, and then you turn into the direction of what you want, and it comes right in. There's no gap. This idea of unwanted and wanted are right next to each other. So you don't have to experience the unwanted part of your life ever. The idea of pain not being something that's coming in and pushing against us, but our ability to not receive the healing on the other side is what pain is. We're not receiving that which wants to come in. Therefore, it's a pressure being built up upon us of well-being that we're not turning into the direction and receiving. That's what pain is. Isn't that amazing? That's what negative emotion is. It's missing. What is it missing? It's missing our source. So we start understanding, wow, I got to find a way to receive my source. Now remember, this happened to me. It's like, I just want to be able to receive my source, as Abraham Hicks would say, the receiving mode. So what I've realized is that, believe it or not, if you can get into a habit of just allowing, I allow this moment to be as it is, and no longer insist that the moment be any different than it is. I allow this jacket to feel, I allow this breath to move through my lungs, I allow the temperature in this room to be exactly as it is, I allow my hair to be exactly as it is. I allow others to be as they are, and we learn to just let them be. You're allowed to be right where you are. I don't need to change you anymore. I don't need to find anything wrong with you. I don't need to do anything. I could just start simply by allowing the unfolding of the world. The world is always changing. It's always coming in based on your vibration. If you just allow the world to come in any way it likes, the more you learn to allow, then what happens is that through that allowing, all the things you've asked for just come in the gaps. They just do. And most importantly, you start transcending this perception that you're holding that the world could be fearful, or that it's lackful, or that it's not working, or that someone's going to hurt you, or something in the government's going to cause problems with you, you see, or the feeling of this and that. Believe it or not, I'm speaking of all of it, allowing all of it to be. And that's what takes care of it. Our insistence that it should be a different way, our insistence that the world should be different, our insistence that others should be different, our insistence that our body be different. This insistence is what's causing the resistance, which causes the suffering. That's the only thing. It's the denial of reality, and reality is always unfolding to you. And what comes to you is what you have asked. So I've learned from my perspective to let go and allow things to come in. Regardless if it seems like someone's leaving my life or someone's coming into my life, I allow them. If my body feels a little weird, I allow it. I don't push against it. I allow it. You're supposed to be here. That's okay. And with that allowing, you can ask for positive things. You can say, I'm going to find something positive in this. There's only positive that's going to come from this. You can add that in there, because it could be hard to allow these things that seem to be pushing against us. But I've learned that the more I allow them, okay, that's okay, I'm actually changing my perception on the other side. Remember, the definition of stuck, the definition of imprisonment in our own mind is simply wanting that which is perceived to change without changing the perception that is perceiving it. Were you able to get that? We cannot change the effect without changing the cause. That's what causes all the issues. So the more I let go of that perception of fear or worry or doubt by allowing the world to be and kind of debunking it as it comes in, the more I just breathe through it, find positivity, I'm going to find that positive. I'm going to believe that I am an eternal, powerful being and that I don't have to prove it to anyone. I don't have to be special. I don't have to get things right or wrong. I can just be as I am. And then I let go of that perception and it dissolves. Because that which you allow, you must embrace. And as you embrace it, that's the idea of the flame. And think about embracing it. It's like burns it. There's a feeling of fire element there. I embrace it. That's through forgiveness, innocence, embracing. So if I don't like this soda and I just take a sip and say, I allow it to be as it is, regardless if I take another sip, I just allow it to be. Then whatever that causes me not to like it, which is my perception, not this, I can dissolve it. I can embrace it. I can let it go. And now more things in my life that come in, they don't push against me as much. I allow that person to be. I've learned it's bliss. It really is the freedom we're all looking for. I allow you to be exactly as you are. I don't need to change you. I allow you to be. I allow you to be. I allow you to be. It's a very powerful thing. And the more you practice the idea of allowing just a little bit at a time, I'm going to allow this to be exactly as it is. You'll start feeling the perception of your source underneath. It's almost right after your, I allow this to be. And then from allowing and letting go, because once I allow, I let go of my perception of it that's causing the resistance, there must be something to be received. And that's your perception of your source underneath. And boy, source loves everything. And before long, you'll love everything. You'll enjoy everything. As you allow the weather to be, I allow this moment to be as it is. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to change it. Notice mind activity is almost going to come to a halt because it's telling you why not to allow it, why it's a threat. Now you're no longer threatened by anything. There's no more mind activity, and there's a peace underneath and that feeling of just awareness. I'm just being aware of my life, allowing it to be as it is. And then from there, there's a feeling of expectation of goodness and flow and love, and you'll see as it flows in. I love the saying, like a thief in the night. It just takes away your perception and brings in all the goodness. It just replaces itself, and you don't even notice it's happening. And all of a sudden, you just don't feel pushed against the world anymore. You're kind of at relax. You're kind of ease. You're kind of just at peace. That peace beyond understanding is the idea of allowing, which is forgiveness of your own perception, in order to allow the perception of your source to move in to the place of it. And that would be the kingdom, that kingdom of God that Jesus spoke about, to become one with the perception of our source, of our Father, of our God energy, of our inner being, or our broader perspective. And to let go of the perception that we hold of our fearful self. Trade one for the other. And how does it happen? Transforming consciousness through allowing. I hope this helps. Take this with you. And of course, it's always up to you what you receive. And hit the like button if it's speaking to you. And of course, keep subscribing. And thank you so much. And as always, my unconditional love and appreciation to each one of you.